Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we speak with a five-time, 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 five-time champion of the world who has done it all in his decorated career, and he has returned in a big way for the Alliance Wrestling League. He is almost the sheriff, the law and order, the general manager, as you might say, to kind of keep in line what's going on here with ADT and who knows what else is going to go on in the rest of the roster. This man has done it all when it comes to the state of Alabama in the world of backyard wrestling. He has done it all, but now he comes on here for the first time on Sportswire Radio to share his journey, talk about the future of the Alliance Wrestling League, and maybe even speak about some recent guests and some friends of Sportswire Radio. He needs no further introduction, but because this is his first time on here, he's got to get that introduction that everybody else gets. So with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. One global sports show, the general manager of the Alliance Wrestling League. They call him Hillbilly. My friend, welcome aboard.
It's good to be here. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the introduction. I've never had an introduction like that in my entire life.
You know, I've been doing this for 5 years, Mr. Tilley, and I'm getting this more and more, whether it's from our wrestlers, whether it's from our athletes, whoever it might be, and I've got comments already. We'll definitely talk about all that later. But my friend, you have made quite a return to the scene here and some, and you're in a tough spot right now because you have to deal with a lot right now on the Alliance Wrestling. You've got a champion, ADT, who's on the warpath. We've got the fallout between Dylan Andrews and AJ Morgan, and they're brothers. Oh, by the way, and then Christopher James last week wins the #1 contendership where, oh, by the way, ADT was the referee, the stipulation that was made here on Sportswire Radio. So, I mean, how are you dealing with all of this stuff here? You have certainly come back in a big way, and you're in the fire more so than you've ever been in your decorated career.
It's not easy. Let me tell you that. These guys they're the best in backyard wrestling, and they are difficult to handle, that's for sure. But I'm trying my best, and we got plenty of talent. I'm ready to see Christopher James versus ADT.
Okay, you said something interesting, and obviously we have a really stacked roster in the Alliance Wrestling League. This is definitely a company that I'm really excited about. Obviously love what everybody's doing here, but you got a lot of guys that have a lot of egos, and then B, on top of that, you got guys that got a lot of personalities. You have a lot of experience, no question about it. You've been in there with some of the best. You've been a 5-time world champion, Hillbilly Tilley, but how are you going to use – that's right. How are you going to be able to use your experiences to kind of keep everybody in line?
Actually, I'm very experienced in being a manager of backyard wrestling. I've managed at least 3 different promotions. I was even manager in the early AWL. That's why Sky Felton chose me as someone that has the knowledge and the capability to run a company. But
okay, but those experiences, I feel like, are different than the experiences now because we have a roster that's not just stacked. These guys are just physically imposed. Now, I know you're not afraid of many people, my friend, but, I mean, these are guys that I wouldn't want to mess with in a darkened alley. I mean, how are you kind of – still, I have to ask, how are you going to pull this off?
With a lot of sheer willpower and this, I'm just gonna have to try my best. I mean, you've seen the guys on there. I wouldn't want to get in the ring with half these guys, but if they're half my age and they're twice the wrestler. I mean, Dylan Andrews back, man. That guy's. I wouldn't want.
Oh my! And he looks. It's funny you said that because he looks so different. I mean, I feel like Dylan Andrews now. I mean, He's in Sons of Anarchy, he's a biker. I mean, he might be both. I mean, listen, right now with Dylan Andrews, I think he's in the best shape of his career. I think he's primed and poised to basically destroy anybody he wants, not only just in the Alliance Wrestling League, but I would dare say in the entire wrestling world at the moment.
I agree with you. Like the guys, I mean, you saw him hit that finisher on his brother, and like
his own brother, nevertheless, his own brother.
Yeah, and for now, that's what he's told me. That's all he's about. That's all he's here for. I mean, I told him I'd like to see him wrestle ADT one day, but right now, ADT's got Christopher James ahead of him, and Christopher James, he's extremely talented. I mean,
absolutely, Christopher James definitely is a guy that I'm really excited about, and his abilities. He's kind of the guy that certainly has the background and the pedigree. And let's talk about him for a second. Obviously, he's our number one contender to ADT's title, and he's got a lot of experience. And I know it's kind of still a little bit untapped, but what's your impressions of a Christopher James? Obviously, somebody in yourself who knows talent. So what's your impressions on a Christopher James?
Well, it shows he's definitely a second-generation wrestler. It's like it comes natural to him almost, man. And that Superman punch is most.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
And then, like, anytime you hit a move on a guy, it's like he can about reverse it, just go with the flow. He's fast. That spear he hit on ADT at the end of his last match, that was a deadly spear. I mean, it took ADT right off his feet.
Hey, ADT's a big man, by the way. A big, big, big man. So the fact that he did that, you know, it shows. And I kind of think that the prototype of a Christopher James, tell me your thoughts on this, is almost kind of like this agile, versatile guy that can kind of do a number of different things. Do you think that's something that's changed from when the last time you were dominating in the yard back those years ago? Have you seen a change maybe in the style in that sense? Talk to me about that.
Well, I definitely have seen a change in most backyard wrestling for sure. And back when I was still wrestling, it was still like we were spot monkeys. You know, we did a lot of stuff that took years off our careers.
I saw there was a video you did. You were almost kind of you were attempting to host your own show, and you showed like these highlights of all these different yarders. And this is going back way back. We're probably talking about, I guess, more than 13 years ago, whatever it was. And then there was almost like at the end of the video, like a disclaimer. And then I thought about it. Yeah, those were the days where it was only Daredevils. It was only Daredevils back in those days.
Oh yeah, you had to be fearless to get in the ring back then, or get in the yard per se. Like I wrestled most of my career on the ground.
I saw that. Yes, I did.
It took I took a lot of beatings. I've wrestled people like Dylan Andrews and Brandon Bonds.
I mean, Brandon Bonds was he was a big and imposing figure. So you did see your own Dylan Andrew types, absolutely, no question about that.
Yeah, so I could definitely see Dylan Andrews opposing really what his will on the roster if he wanted to. But right now, he seems like his only focus is his brother, and I hope the best for AJ Morgan because he's got a lot. He's got a lot to face, man. I wouldn't want to have to face him.
Absolutely, no question about that. Let me get to some comments here, and I want to say hello to the Painmaker, Mr. Joshua Allen, who is from Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Now, he was just getting over COVID, so I hope that Mr. Allen is feeling better. He says, good evening, gentlemen, and I knew this was coming, so let me address a couple of comments from an individual who was on the show Monday. He is the reigning defending ROEW champion of the world, and his name is Jason Storm, and we knew this was going to come anyway, but he says, first, well, if it isn't the Hillbilly, fill in the blanks, that stole my general manager spot. Calling it on here now, Jason Storm versus Hillbilly Tilley for the AWL GM spot and the ROEW World Championship. Now, obviously, you've got some history here, but what would you want to say toward the first of two comments from Mr. Storm, the wild card?
Well, I'd take him up on his offer, but he'd have to come to Alabama. I ain't going up to Michigan. I don't go north for the Mason-Dixon line. I love Southern hospitality. I want to go up there with all them pricks. As you know, the good guy, CJ Black, I'm not the most favorite person up there in Michigan, but, it is what it is. If he comes down to Alabama, I'd consider making that match happen. And AWL for sure.
Well, let me ask you a question. Obviously, there is history between yourself and ROEW. So where did this all start? Obviously, you kind of mentioned a good guy, and he had wanted to challenge you last year and wanted you to come back in the ring, and you've been pretty silent about that. So where did this all start?
Well, let's go back to the beginning. I think me and his relationship started probably around early 2011.
Okay.
I was obviously wrestling HCW, and then we went into a war, kind of, me, HCW, and him and ROEW. And we even worked together on a promotion at one point. And I have a lot of respect for CJ. He's a really good wrestler. He's great in the ring, And me and him's always been good friends. And I was honored for him to call me back out. But I just like I said, I don't go north. I like the south. And like ADT pointed out, if he really wanted to match Hillbilly Tilley, which he doesn't really want to match Hillbilly Tilley, he just wanted to call somebody out and think he was going to like get me to come up to Michigan. But nah, I mean, he has to come down here to face me. I'm the five-time.
You did like that. I could tell you did like that. But, I appreciate the honesty from you because there are some guys in some companies that go, yeah, I want to challenge everybody. And then they get challenged and, their company, according to some, they have 3 initials and they've looked, very suspect right now. So I appreciate the honesty there. And I do have some more comments. So I'll come back to AJ Morgan. AJ obviously was the victim of Dylan Andrews' attack. He says, "Don't worry about me, boss. I can handle myself." But are you worried about Mr. Morgan? Or I mean, what do you make of this?
I'm not worried about him in a way like I just wouldn't want to be in his position. I'll just be real with you. Like when I saw Dylan Andrews come back, like you pointed out, he's changed a lot.
I don't even recognize him. When ADT was speaking about him before the show aired, last week before Saturday's show, I would not have known that was Dylan Andrews. I mean, Dylan Andrews made a change certainly for the more vicious, for the more ruthless, and the more cunning, I would say.
Yeah, I remember when at that taping when I saw Dylan Andrews, like I didn't recognize him at first. He's like, "How you doing, man?" I was like, "Oh," I looked at him. He's like, "It's me, Dylan Andrews." I was like, "Oh, golly!" Last time I saw him, he had no facial hair. He's a young man. Now he's done grown up, and he's a scary presence. ADT, AJ Morgan, anyone that had a challenge with him, I feel like he's the most scary threat on the roster. But right now, he's got his focus on his little brother, and his little brother says he can handle himself. Now his little brother's not no slouch, they come from blood apparently.
What's that like, though? You think from afar, in that you have these brothers that they obviously know each other, they know one another, but we have this radical change in that Dylan is basically turned on his brother. What do you surmise that you think that's going to be like long term for those two?
I think it's going to be some bad blood between them, man. It's going to be really hard fought battles. It's going to be some wars really in the ring because they've done grown up together. They done had brotherly fights, I'm sure. And both of them are like pretty big dudes. They're
I know AJ's still a tall guy, but his brother's certainly one thing, and obviously we're going to see that might be a more dangerous rivalry that we're going to see at All of Wrestling. And I want everybody to follow the Alliance Wrestling League if you're out there on Instagram at Alliance_Wrestling_League. Also YouTube as well, Alliance Wrestling League. Also Hillbilly Tilley, TILLEY BYW on Instagram. Please make sure you support them. Alliance Wrestling League has become quickly one of my favorite companies out there. And Mr. Storm would like to say best in backyard wrestling. If they were part of ROEW, then yes, but they would be, but they aren't. So what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think AWL is the only show I see that's putting out a weekly show every week or since they started.
Yep.
I think we put out as much matches as just about ROEW's done at 8th time in a month and a half.
Well, I'm going to plead the fifth on that because I do happen to like what everybody's doing out there, and I hope it continues. But let's talk about in the positives before I get to more comments about the Alliance Wrestling. I want to get your perspective because you're a veteran in this game. You've been around a long time, so you know things different. You have a different eye than most people, my friend. I tell you what's really impressed me about the Alliance Wrestling League is the content, the production. the editing, the look. I think that this is going to be one of the up-and-coming companies around based on everything I just said. I mean, what's your impression of that? Because you've been around. Obviously, a lot has changed since you were out there and dominating and winning those world titles. But kind of talk about those aspects as to why I think of the Alliance Wrestling League is one of the premier brands out there.
They just got all the talent. They got all the the right timing. That's the thing in all of wrestling is the timing. And they got it going on, and they got so much talent. And you haven't even seen all the talent that's going to be debuting soon. We got, all the wrestling quality is so much superior to the rest of backyard wrestling, in my opinion. Hey, if you want to, there's a reason I came out of retirement here, and there's a reason I'm not wrestling on the roster either because I don't know if I can keep up with these boys right now. They doing it, man. They putting in the time, the effort, the work. If I could just have half of the talent they had back in the day wrestling with me, my career could have lasted all the way till now.
Well, I want to ask you about that for a few minutes, and I'll certainly come back to more comments. I do have them, and I certainly hope people will be patient on this. But you've been away from the game for a long time. Obviously, you've been called out. We just addressed that, and you talked about, obviously, you don't want to travel, and also you've had some injuries. So not always those are things that I appreciate the honesty on. But in terms of your career being as gone as long as you have, was there ever times that you said, hey, I want to come back, I didn't do it, or there was just kind of like a what if? Kind of talk about the process for all these years you were gone and what you were going through. You got to turn your mic back on.
Can you hear me now?
Now, there you go. Go ahead.
I've been watching backyard wrestling since I've left. I've been wanting to return, but that is where I'm from. ADT, he moved to Florida for a while, and AWL wasn't existing. And then when Sky Felton, both of them was in high school and was doing their thing, and now they've gotten grown men. Last time I wrestled ADT, he was a young kid, and I've watched a lot of backyard wrestling. I'm back in 2019. I wanted to return, but I just couldn't get the roster together. I couldn't get everyone together. It just wasn't able to pull together. I've always had to run the show on my part. And now it just feels good to sit back and run the show and not have to be a part of it too. Makes it just like a fun watch. I'm glad that, I'm back here and I'm back. And part of it, I feel like it's going to be the best backyard wrestling show we have ever seen almost. We're going to rival a lot of people.
Well, I tell you what, I'm happy about it. And there's an old adage, the best is yet to come. So the best is yet to come. So don't you worry about that here. But speaking of who somebody might have the best yet to come, that is Mr. Dylan Andrews. And oh, by the way, he's here. I wouldn't want to face me neither. What do you say toward that?
I agree. The guy's scary. I see his and my wrestling style is a lot differently. I ain't gonna lie. I use a lot of cheap tactics to win. I
noticed that in some of your career. You were one of those guys that would kind of find ways to get wins.
I'm a weapon specialist. I love using a chair. I love using any kind of...
You use like the laundry basket in one match, right? Remember using the laundry basket?
Yeah, I've used everything from you can think of, everything the kitchen sink, man. But I've come out with a lot of wins over time. I've busted people open. I've been busted open. I've taken one of my best rivals in my career was Clay Pierce, and me and him had
the Alabama street fight.
Oh yes, I took in that match. I took a ladder right to his face and gave him about 6 stitches in that match. But he took a chair to my ribs and he broke one of my ribs, so it was a pretty bad match. But that's why I wrestled for a company called Hardcore Championship Wrestling, man.
HCW, which I think has been mentioned here on the show. And what are your memories of that being a part of HCW? And also Alabama Championship Wrestling as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yes, a lot of good memories, man. It was very painful memories, but I was the best wrestler and the face of that show. And I never thought 10 years down the road people would be saying my name, my legacy would be brought up from that. Arguably, like even CJ Black's mentioned before, like I'm kind of the reason that REW got to start back up, which you're welcome. But
So you
I,
take
I,
credit in a way then for all these wrestlers coming into ROEW. Then basically, you take kind of credit in a way. No.
I take them credit for giving them the platform and giving them motivation to start the company back. If I had answered that challenge, you never know. I might have went up to Michigan, beat CJ Black, ended his career on a bad note, but I gave him a kind of a career revival.
I'm curious because you have matches out there that have all these views years later, 700, 600, 400, and even bigger numbers. Do you think about that at all? Do you maybe kind of look at that and say, wow, that many people, even to this day, still go back and watch my matches? What does that make you feel?
Makes me feel proud, man, because when I was doing this 10 years ago, I'd say it's a downtime in all of wrestling when we was wrestling. It was,
Yeah,
and
early 2010s, late 2000s. Yeah, that was not
uh,
the most memorable time in wrestling. I would agree.
nah, it was just down. We put all kinds of content out, and just could never get the fan base. And it's just like I go back and look at the matches, and they gone up in views, they gone up in likes, and now I'd say backyard wrestling and wrestling as a whole is like on the up and ups. And
I think so too. And I've been doing this for 5 years, and I've noticed in the last really, even through COVID, that wrestling has made not a comeback, but it's sort of gained like a new interest. It almost reminds me. I do a lot of music coverage in the past on Sportzwire Radio when sometimes a band puts out a CD or an album, if you wanted to call it, years ago, and maybe it doesn't sell as well, but then people revisit it and go, wow, you know what? That was a good album, but maybe for whatever reason it didn't come out at the right time due to maybe genres, styles changing, and then people give it a second look. And I think that's kind of what's happened with your career, where those matches, they were great matches, and I had a chance to watch some of them, but maybe because of the timing, they didn't do as well, but now they're kind of doing well. And I got a bunch of comments here, so let me try to work everybody. But speaking of people, Jason Storm, we all know you aren't coming up here. It's the whole reason why I'm running ROEW. So that's obviously something I'm sure at ROEW that's going to be for debate. Also, ADT is in the house, the reigning, defending Alliance Wrestling League champion of the world. What do you want to say to that?
Well, champ, you got a challenge coming up soon, don't you, with Christopher James? All you faced is AJ Morgan so far, and I mean, he's giving you a run for your money, man. You better be glad Dylan Andrews came back. But I'm just happy that he's doing so well in his career. I never thought 10 years ago that when I faced him, he beat me for world title as a kid. So I always knew he would be.
He spoke about that on the show with us. And so, did you ever think 10 years later? I mean, the guy looks like he's worth $1 million. The guy dresses like he's $1 million. Speaks like he's $1 million. And oh, by the way, looks like a world champion who is $1 million.
Yeah, I knew he'd be this good as long as he kept to it and pursued it, which he did, which I'm very proud and I'm glad he has, because look at the guy. I mean, he's built for wrestling. He could be a real wrestler.
This guy looks like he's literally built like a tank, as I said. He's as strong as an ox. And the guy on top of that, to me, is almost like the backyard version of Brock Lesnar right now.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's a full package, man, on that mic, in that yard, anywhere you want to put him against. I'd put him up against anybody. Jack Delta, Jason Storm, anybody.
Storm's here, they're fighting it out right now on YouTube between those two individuals. I mean, I almost have to ask you, because ROEW and AWL are kind of intertwined for better or worse. I mean, is that something you would want to see one day, Mr. Storm and Mr. ADT? Is that something that you think should happen? Or do you think that Mr. Storm should come to Alabama and pay a visit to Mr. ADT? Or you don't really think Mr. Storm's going to do that?
Well, he's proven he's a traveling champ so far. So maybe travel on down. I've heard that talent goes to talent. So if he wants a real challenge for the ROEW title, if he wants to keep that ROEW title, he'll stay in Michigan. But if he wants a real challenge for it, he'll come down to Alabama and face ADT or whoever's the champion at the time. I'm not going to say ADT is going to remain champ for a long time, which I mean.
Are you sure, though? Because have you seen – I know you've seen him up close. I had him on here. And this guy – I mean, I think right now, and I think I said this with ADT – and Jack Delta, I have a lot of respect for, as a lot of people do. And obviously, Jack has been on here. But ADT, to me, he might be the next Delta. He's got the size, he's got the move set, he's got the look, he's got the skills. I mean, to me, like I said, he's the backyard Brock Lesnar, and I think right now ADT, you put any champion out there with him, ADT might be the guy right now. To me, in the whole yard, this might be the guy.
I'll respect the Jack Delta, but ADT's ADT. Jack Delta is going to be Jack Delta, but he was. I've watched his entire career from the time he was in MEBW to where he is now, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's revolutionized the game. He's made backyard wrestling like a whole different platform now, getting like traveling all over the country. I mean, that's shocking.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost like, I think he's been in over a dozen states or something like that. I mean, he's just like, and I know Jason's traveled also, and I want to give Jason a big shout out on that. And I know other guys like Jackson Law, who's been in ROEW travel, but yeah, Jack Delta's been like the Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, he really has, man. He's a legend for sure. And I know ADT's on his journey to become the legend of backyard wrestling. If he continues what he's doing, which I know he is, like me and him, we have our conversations. We don't always agree, but he's going to be the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, as Bret Hart would say.
Absolutely. And let me get to a bunch of comments here, as people certainly do want to talk. Also, we have here, I'm way behind, so let me come back to people. Dylan said something AJ will never say, but I don't know what that was. And ADT acknowledges a few comments, and then we said Jason Storm, ADT, the champ's been here. Like I said, no Jason, the real champ, meaning ADT. And then ADT kind of points with the emojis there with that. Also, he'd like to say, I beat always jobbing Morgan cleanly, my man, but I appreciate the kind words, boss man. It's inevitable that we cross paths. Whoever's turf it'll be on, I'll be the winner, meaning Jason Storm, obviously. So that's kind of what he wanted to point out. Backyard Lesnar is clearly the original Dylan Andrews, but I'll take the compliment. Yeah, I mean, you could put whatever you want. I'll give you both of it. How about that? Jason Storm versus ADT is a title or not is a money match. Whether it's Alabama, Michigan, it's going to happen. And then he says, I can agree on that. I mean, so I hope it would happen. I hope it would happen. And I want to say hello also to somebody who's also a world champion who is now ventured from the state of Wisconsin to the state of Iowa. That is Nicholas Crenson, who's the reigning defending RCW World Underground Champion from Wrestling Championship Entertainment. He has made the venture there. He is tuned in saying afternoon because technically, I guess if it's in Iowa, you're in afternoon just about. We're in New York. It's almost like kind of evening here. And Dylan would like to say, sounds like a trip for you, Jason. Absolutely. That's definitely a trip I want to see. And we are having a trip right now with Hillbilly Tilley, our general manager from the Alliance Wrestling League. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryson. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, I say continue to give us a like and listen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. You can also continue to like us on Facebook at Sportzwire Radio. We're also on YouTube right now at Sportzwire Radio. Give us a sub. We're just at about 300 subscribers. So we're right there, 298. So I appreciate that. If you give me a couple of more subs and we'll get to 300. I want to thank everybody that has continued to follow. I have a whole bunch of shows coming up with some big time guys. Monday night, right after Monday Night Raw, I have Vito Fratelli. And Vito Fratelli, pro wrestling star, I think has like 8 world championships currently. He defeated the likes of the former MLW champion Alexander Hammerstone. He's defeated TJP, who we know from WWE in his days there, dominating. And he has been there with a who's who of people in Mexico, all over the West Coast in the United States. This is an interview that you aren't going to miss. And I wanted to reschedule it from Wednesday night to right after Monday Night Raw because this is how much of a big deal Vito Fratelli is. We're also going to be here Tuesday night with Brandon Castelli from Dominant Breakout Wrestling. We just had on their champion, Hillbilly Tilley, last night, Mr. Judgment, who would be another great opponent for ADT because this guy's 6'3", 260. He's got an incredible move set in the ring, and this guy is just amazing. Another great guy like ADT. I also want to thank Fletch, the XCW Shelbyville owner, who was in the house on Tuesday, and they just had a huge show yesterday put out called Nothing to Lose. They just had their rundown show today. We have a big announcement coming up on Monday's show for more XCW Shelbyville coverage, so it doesn't get any better than this. That's why you need to stay here on Sportswire Radio and also follow the Alliance Wrestling League on YouTube at Alliance Wrestling League, Alliance_Wrestling_League on Instagram. And also, I have here CJ Black, the good guy, is in the house. Thanks for ducking from who you are and sparking this fire known as the good guy.
You're welcome.
That's all
That's
you
all.
want to say?
I mean, Chris doesn't. Oh, CJ doesn't want any of this, or he'd get on a bus and come to Alabama. You know what I'm saying? But just like Michigan and Alabama in sports, I would dominate. I'd win that match every time. You put us against each other 10 times, 8 times, 9 times out of 10, Hillbilly Tilley's gonna come out the victor.
So you feel like even though you've been away from the game, as long as you've been away from it, you still feel like that you could still hold your own against him. Is that what you're trying to say to the audience?
I'd have some ring rust, don't get me wrong, but like I said, if he comes down and faces me on my turf, we might face him in my match, Alabama Street Fight, and that's where we have all kinds of weapons, and I'll find a way. I'll find a way. I always do. And CJ Black, he's always been on this, wanting to face Hillbilly Tilley, but Hillbilly Tilley just goes where he wants.
Do you think, though, that would be a match that a lot of, I think, yarders, past, present, and future, would want to see? Because if you think about it right now, right, take a step back about what anybody thinks about CJ Black, right? He is a name that garners respect in the scene because he's put in a lot of work in his craft. He's put in a lot of time into it. He's rejuvenated ROEW. In fact, I even had a pro wrestler just message me on Facebook saying, CJ Black followed me. What should I do? I said, go follow this guy. This guy, I'm telling you, he's better than even pros in the ring. And I'm just saying it I'm being totally straight up. I don't pull any punches. You have a record as well. So my point is, though, don't you think, though, that a lot of people would want to see a match like this, especially with your name and his name right now?
Big money match. As they would say in the ADT, I think we just should have them all. We should just have a whole ROEW versus AWL. I might come out of retirement for that match.
I mean, you can never say never in the world of wrestling. I mean, Edge's come back. I mean, Stone Cold had a match against Kevin Owens. I mean, so many guys. Ric Flair wrestled last year at 73. I mean, Hulk Hogan did a podcast a few months ago saying he's in better shape than he's been in 30 years. He moves great, and he wants one more run. I mean, everybody out there in wrestling, you can just never say never. So, I mean, you're still a young man, relatively speaking. I mean, you're not as old as some would say James Taylor, the nemesis James Taylor, also from Alabama. So, I mean, you could still theoretically maybe put up one more match. Maybe it wouldn't be some of the legendary wars you had years ago, but I think a lot of yarders might want to see that kind of match.
I definitely would. I'd consider it. I'd definitely come out of retirement to face CJ. CJ's a great in-ring worker, probably the top tier backyard wrestling. It shows. It shows in his wrestling. He's always been just levels ahead, at least in wrestling ability and in-ring ability, which I respect a lot. That's one thing I had to work on in my career, but I got to a point where I wasn't doing so bad, but I'd have some rust, but never say never, because I'm trying to get back in shape for the ring. But these guys, man, they're just killing it. They're so far ahead of where we were back in the day, and like it shows. And I'm just so glad to be a part of AWL and pushing the real talent in backyard wrestling. Like I just feel like we have what everyone wants. I mean, we got the talented roster, we got the world champion that's dominating. We got competitors. You see how many people's wanting to face ADT right now.
Oh, my God. Everybody out there, when I mention his name on Sportswire, you get IMF guys. You get guys in DKW right now is tuned in. Our friends over at Dark Cryptic Wrestling who are helping out in Summer Bash next year. Their champion, Joe Stone, another young guy who's a champion. Obviously, XCW, Corey Lee's the champion. DBW, Mr. Judgment. I think Mr. Judgment and ADT would be a dream match because of the size, strength that both those guys have. That would be a true toss-up. That, to me, would be a true toss-up. I mean, you've got guys all over the place. You could put ADT. It's almost like a dream match. It's almost like for all those years when they had the Pro Wrestling Illustrated and they talked about Hogan and Flair happening. To me, ADT is like Flair right now. Everybody wants to see ADT wrestle somebody in every company. It's probably not going to happen for different reasons just because that's how it goes. But that's kind of right now where he is and kind of where this company is, I think. Yeah, your microphone.
ADT is the best in backyard wrestling to me right now. In the ring, on the mic. I mean, he's just going to keep getting better too, man. He's been training for this since he was a kid. He's been at the game 10, 13 years now. I mean, there's a lot of big money matches, and he's welcome to go wherever he wants. I ain't gonna hold him if he wants to go face anybody. He can.
I don't think anybody's holding him. You've seen his size, right? So there's nobody holding him. I mean, I would take 3 people, and they still couldn't take him down. That's how big it is here. CJ Black would like to say, though, I'll answer that no. I no longer have time for that match with you. So
I always trying to duck me. He says I'm trying to duck him and trying to duck me, but he just ain't gonna come to Alabama. He don't want to come down here, and for me to put that blemish on his career for him.
Okay, all right. Well, he's obviously has his opinion. He says, good thing you suck at math. And I do, for a minute, want to plug ROEW because they're on Instagram and YouTube as well at ROEW Backyard Wrestling. I like people to follow them as well because they have great content. And I like people to go out there and watch what they bring to the table. Mr. Storm would like to say if CJ Black was that good, he'd have the ROEW World Championship, but he doesn't. So my calculations, I'm a better wrestler than CJ Black. I mean, people would make that point. And Mr. Black would like to say, yeah, I apologize actually because I realized that his prior response was toward Mr. Storm. So that's kind of their back and forth. I'll let those guys figure that out here for a second. But let me ask you a question on Alliance Wrestling League. What are your goals for the company now that you're in charge as general manager? Microphone.
To get us to be the most seen product in backyard wrestling. That's why I'm on your show. Thank you for giving me the platform here. We're going to try to push it as much as we can. I want to be as big as ESW, on MEBW. This is some of the greatest shows that's ever been. I just want to be. I really believe in this company. I believe in the talent. We got some great wrestlers. I mean, we put on. You see that last match between AJ Morgan and ADT?
I sure did. How about Christopher James and Tyson Gates? I mean, how about that match?
That was really impressive. I mean, that cutter that Tyson Gates hit, that spear that Christopher James hit. I mean, them guys they're just beyond talented. And they're the undercard right now at ADT. And Christopher James now is going to face them, which is a match I think is a match. And Dylan Andrews, AJ Morgan. I mean, that's going to be a great brother versus brother. I mean, think all the great brother feuds and wrestling history.
You think about the Harts. You certainly Owen Hart and Bret Hart. How long that feud went. Yeah. Undertaker and Kane. You have to sort of put that in there. I mean, there's some real good feuds between siblings in wrestling history. I mean, you think about, what could be there. The possibilities are certainly endless, and that's why I want people to follow the Alliance Wrestling League at Alliance_Wrestling_League. Also, I want to give a shout out to somebody here from, I think it's Dark Cryptic Wrestling. I think I know who this is. So for anyone who thinks they're the best, they should book a match for Summer Bash, which is from July 5th to July 7th, 2024. That involves the IMF and DKW. That's on the home turf of DKW, Dark Cryptic Wrestling. So you can go to Dark Cryptic Wrestling on YouTube for more information. IMF Wrestling 666 as well on YouTube. And there's a whole list of companies. We had confirmed DBW last night. Obviously, Mr. Judgment's going to be there. We have DKW and IMF, as I stated, WCE. We have ROEW. Looks like Jason Storm's going to be there. XCW is going to be there, already confirmed on the show a few days ago. I'm sure there's a whole list of companies. TBW, I'm sure, will be there. So a lot more companies out there. So Jason Storm would like to say, all the smack talk aside, AWL is head and shoulders above most of the rest who've been doing it for years. ROEW and AWL are in a league of their own. No question that I think that ROEW and AWL, in terms of the type of matches and the type of content, is superior over many companies. I would 1,000% agree about that. And I know you feel the same way. Otherwise, you wouldn't be back.
That's for sure. I mean, that's why I came back, because these guys are they're the best I've ever seen do it. And hats off to ROEW as well. I mean, CJ Black has really had, he's really done well. I mean, I've loved the work they've done, and I just love the work that we're all doing right now, and I really am behind it. That's why I've came back, and that's why I'm being the general manager and helping run the behind the scenes, because I mean, give a showcase to these young talents, man. I mean, they're just heads and shoulders ahead of everybody else in backyard wrestling. and I'd love to see anybody like try to compete. I think it's healthy as competition, really.
Let me ask you a question, and I have comments, and I'll get to them here shortly. But do you have any advice for anybody starting out or anybody that's here? Do you have any advice for them, and maybe on things they should do or things maybe you didn't do in your journey for your career?
Uh, just wrestle all you can, wrestle everybody you can. Don't and put out as much content as you can. Network as much as you can. I talk to everyone you can in backyard wrestling. Because just try to push your product with everybody. And cut more promos, better promos. Don't focus so much on the promos and the characters, which I love that everyone has, but I feel like it's gotten a little bit soft. The wrestling quality went down, and we wouldn't even focus on wrestling quality back then. We focused on with spot monkeys a lot of ways, but I don't know. It's just I feel like these guys focus way too much on their character and their gimmicks. Like ADT like to say, they like to copy a lot of people. Like, come on.
Every show this comes up, there's one particular company especially that copies. There's one, but I know that company actually, I'm going to have an announcement on in a few days that they're going to be coming to Sportswire once again. So I'm going to really try my best to say nothing on that. Obviously, if they want to do that, that's them. But I do believe in one thing, Hillbilly Tilley. In the long run, those that seek their own path will always, in the end, be on top. So that's my advice to anybody out here, any company that's here, anybody else that's here. I always believe in the long run, good always rises above the crop, and those who continue to do the right things and put on the good shows, have the best talent, the best matches, maybe they don't get the most views today, but in the long run, those are going to be the people that'll remember. Just like in the music business, people always remember the people that were there despite all the trends. And I think it's going to be the same thing with great people like ROEW, AWL, DKW, DBW, IMF, so on and so on here. CJ Black would like to say, I'm just waiting for that cash app as relates to Summer Bash. He wants his flight, hotel, limo, and food covered. He also has respect for Jason Storm and ADT. Since you're in charge now, will you do anything from me being attacked from behind? Will you do anything to stop it?
I mean, it's a big boys locker room. I can't control it. Make friends. I can't control these guys, man. I'm doing my best to keep some kind of handle on them. I feel like a rancher, and this is cattle that's they're going on a stampede.
You feel that way now? Do you feel that way? Because I'm gonna inform you, Mr. General Manager, that I have somebody that's got something to say to you, and he's been mentioned quite a bit tonight, and he's got a lot on his mind, especially about your tenure as leader, as general manager, and maybe even his brother. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now joined by the returning Dylan Andrews. And Dylan, I'm not even going to say anything further. You've wanted the floor. You want to address the AWL fan base and even our new general manager. Floor is yours, sir.
First and foremost, AJ, I see you in the chat. You can't stop what's coming. You've mentioned my name time and time again. You say that you and ADT had to mention me for someone to remember me. You had to mention my name just to get some recognition to your ass. It's my yard. I'm back. Tilley, good to see you. I think we're going to have a good working relationship. Stay out of my way.
I'll do my best.
Are you sure, though, Hillbilly Tilley? I mean, Dylan Andrews is a big and imposing man. You're going to have to give him what he wants. Are you prepared to do that and kind of still be right down the line?
I'll give him any match he wants with his brother, as long as his brothers agree upon it. I mean, if his brother wants to stay in AWL, I mean, he's going to face who I tell him to face, and Dylan Andrews has come back, and he's big money right now, man. I mean, I'm all behind him. I really think he's probably my favorite wrestler on the roster.
I appreciate the kind words.
Quite a way to sell Mr. Andrews. And Mr. Andrews, is it fair for me to ask, or even okay for me to ask, that maybe your brother should maybe avoid the beating now, avoid the one-way ticket to his funeral, and maybe kind of step aside and not go in the ring with you? Should I maybe ask that question, maybe to save himself a beating that'll be remembered for a lifetime? And may permanently keep him on the shelf in AWL? Is that something I should ask you right now, live for our Sportswire radio audience?
He's his own man. He can do what he wants. But I'll tell you exactly what I'm going for. I'm going to kill him. That's my goal.
That's why I asked that question.
That's my goal. That is my goal. I'll give you a little bit about myself. All right.
Yes, sir.
So I left wrestling. Finally graduated high school. It took me a couple years. Took me a little extra. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not gonna lie.
I had a friend of mine who actually took him 7 years, no joke, to finish high school. So
it didn't take me that long, but it took me a couple extra.
I always tell that story to people, and people lighten up. So wow, I feel so much better about myself. So that's why I always tell that story.
Took me a couple extra years. I joined the Army straight out of high school. So
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Don't thank me yet though. I committed a couple war crimes while I was in Iraq. Not gonna lie to you. They threw me in Leavenworth. Leavenworth, for those that don't know, is a military prison. Spent some time in Leavenworth. When I got out, I actually just got out not too long ago, and that's when I saw AJ mentioning my name to get recognition. So I'm here for one thing and one thing only, and that's to kill. That's all I know to do.
Has AJ embarrassed the family name, in your opinion?
Has he embarrassed the family name? You damn right he has.
So to me, it sounds like he should just maybe not even show up and take this fight, because looking at you right now and hearing from you the first time, sir, I mean, and I say this all the time, if I were him, I would just basically head south, run the other way. I mean, find something else to do.
Get your ass to Florida, to Cuba, where the furthest place you can get away from me. That is not a threat, AJ. That is a promise. Let's get that straight.
Well, I have some comments here, so let me actually get to them, because people actually right now, and Mr. Morgan, your brother's response basically says, "Oh my effing God, why?" And then CJ Black would like to tell you, "Nice shades, a-hole," basically. And he says, make like the actual Lesnar and F off. And he says, "How did I embarrass the family name? You lost to ADT also." So what's your comment on that?
I might have lost to ADT in the past, but that was the old me. This is the new me.
I did mark that. I remarked that you look. I don't even recognize you now from the last time we saw you in the ring. I mean, Hillbilly said the same thing. ADT said the same thing when he was here. I mean, I think you're a changed man, certainly for the better.
I completely agree. My entire demeanor has changed, and again, I have one goal and one goal only, and that's to kill.
I could certainly
I'm out for blood.
Oh, I could certainly see that. And I actually want people, if they're out there, to follow Dylan Andrews here on Instagram, because you can do that at the _original_ Dylan Andrews. So make sure you stay out of this man's war path, because he's actually committed war crimes in the past. So he knows a thing or two about crimes and being in the war. Go to the _original_ Dylan Andrews on Instagram, the _original_ Dylan Andrews. Just whatever you do, follow this man and just then get the heck out of his way. And I have to ask you, Mr. Andrews, I mean, did that nose ring hurt, by the way?
No.
I figured I'd ask. I figured I'd ask to try to get on your good side for a change.
Well, you're doing a good job, Tom. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. I mean, what are your impressions, though, Mr. Andrews, of the Alliance Wrestling League? We have you here. We're hanging out for a little while longer. I mean, you've been around. You've seen it all. I mean, what's your impressions of the company right now? I mean, I really am excited about this company, and I really can't stress enough the fact that, this is a company that's really got my attention for the right reasons.
So I like the way that the company's moving. It's definitely moving a lot better than what it did in the past. It's moving a lot better than HCW in the past. I think the game has changed, and it's changed for the better. You see REW's doing great work.
Oh, amazing stuff. I mean, REW, what they've done in their storylines, the wrestling, and everything that they've done visually, and the effort that's put into it. I mean, to me, I say it all the time, REW does not feel like a backyard wrestling company. REW to me feels like it's like a Mid-South wrestling company back in the 80s. And I say that with glowing praise.
Yeah. But as far as AWL, the Alliance Wrestling League, We are going to new heights. We are changing the way backyard wrestling is moving. With our storylines, with our production, we are going to the top. We've been here for, correct me if I'm wrong, Hillbilly, month and a half, right?
I was going to say just about right.
Month and
Not
a
even
half.
2 months.
And we are soaring to the top. There's no one in that backyard, minus one person, that I would put anybody over them.
Well, I'd like to say hello actually to somebody that's tuned in just past midnight. It's almost 1:00 in the morning there, and he had a birthday recently, and he's a big time deal. He's a pro wrestling star in the UK. He's with us. He is the Big Cheese Logan. I'd like to wish him a happy birthday live on the air. This is a big man, by the way. If I had every dollar I could in Alliance Wrestling League, I would just give this guy the money because this guy has done it all. He's been with the big time stars. He gets pictures with Rhea Ripley, Cody Rhodes. He hangs out with John Cena. I mean, this guy is as big as it gets. He tells it like it is. When the pro wrestlers in England and the UK go off on the wrong track, he tells it like it is. Follow him on Instagram, Big Cheese Logan. To me, he would be the biggest deal in the history of any YouTube, underground, any yard company. To me, it would be like when Hulk Hogan signed with WCW in '94, the ticker tape parade. If the Big Cheese Logan ever came to Alliance Wrestling League, this is what he would be. Just follow him on Instagram at Big Cheese Logan. Happy birthday to him. He says he's finally got a chance to tune in and say hello to everybody. And also, CJ Black would like to say HCW. What the hell is that? Well, do you guys want to say something about HCW for the people that don't know about it and might want to refresh people's memories? I mean, I'd be happy to let you guys talk about it for a few minutes.
Billy, take it away.
It's a company that ROEW rode the coattails of, back in its time. And something Chris always wanted to be a part of, but couldn't be. But it's a company that's come and gone and helped a lot of these guys get their start. It's my company I started back in the day, and I'm proud of it, but it just ain't. I hate to say it, but it ain't nowhere near where the AWL is going and is currently.
Anything you want to add, Dylan?
No, Tilley covered it perfectly.
Fair enough. I'm not going to argue with you. You're another big guy, and what am I going to say toward that? But I have to ask you, Dylan, since you are here in the Alliance Wrestling now, I know you've addressed your brother. I get that. But do you have any other goals here in the Alliance Wrestling League?
Take down whoever gets in my way. I don't care about championships. I don't care about championships.
But listen,
I'm
most
here.
people think a title is a prop anyway. Most people think, it's a title, and what does it really mean at the end of the day? I mean, you go out there in the ring. The whole point of being in the ring is just to beat people up. No.
Yeah, and that's it right there. You said it perfectly. I'm here to beat people up. I'm here to make anyone and everyone my bitch.
Yeah, I could certainly see that here. It certainly reminds me of, I hope if anybody else is out there, it reminds me of the Metallica song off Load, Ain't My Bitch. That was the song off. I think it was the first song on Load, but that's a here nor there. But obviously, Mr. Tilley, I want to ask you a question here. What do you want to say? I was your general manager now, so I want to ask you a question. What do you want to say to people that are hearing about the Alliance Wrestling League for the first time to get them to kind of come on board here and join us on this train as I think we go into further heights and to be one of the places that on Sportswire Radio we're going to be talking about for years to come? Put your mic again, my friend.
Jump on the train.
Don't worry, Tom. I'm not going to have those problems.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Mr. GM, go ahead.
Jump on a train while it's still going because you're going to miss out if you don't. Be a part of the Alliance. We are Alliance. This is going to be the best promotion you've ever seen in backyard wrestling, man. I mean, ROEW, they've really took the game to new heights, but we're about to overtop them, already in our first month and a half.
It sounds to me like it's WWF versus WCW right now. It sounds like we're in the middle of a war, and it sounds like we've got one company in one state, another company in another state. It almost reminds me of like college football season's not too far away, and we know certainly Hillbilly is an Auburn fan, but Michigan usually pales into comparison to Alabama. So we know that obviously those are things here. But, I want to put this comment up for you gentlemen. And obviously that's Mr. Christopher James, who's our number one contender I knew, I was going to ask that question actually because I saw Hillbilly's an Auburn fan, and I was kind of wondering from where you guys were, is it Auburn or Alabama country where you guys are located? I was kind of curious about that.
It's a mixed bag. It just depends on the person. Depends on the person.
Oh yeah. Well,
But I feel like Auburn hasn't been good since Cam Newton left. I'm not saying that they've been bad, but they haven't been like to that level almost. Am I wrong?
They haven't been. Tilley, you go. Tilley, you go.
We've been to the title. We have the best record against Alabama, and you want to say both about the teams? I mean, you got to look at it this way. The top 5 college football games the last 20 years they put out, Auburn and Alabama's only 2 teams that are 2 games in both.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what I do like. I always like the SEC game of the week on CBS here for those in America. I always enjoyed those 3:30 CBS games. I know this is the last season of the SEC on CBS before it goes to ESPN, and then you'll have the Big 10 package. Although it's probably going to be like the Big 20 by next season because all the conference alignments here. I mean, you have the Pac-12 looks like they're no more. The ACC is going west. So at this point, who knows with realignment in college football? But I want gentlemen to pull this comment up here from Christopher James. ADT will finally be stripped of his title when I get my shot. Now, Dylan Andrews, I know Hillbilly's take on it, but I mean, for you, Mr. Andrews, what do you make of Christopher James and his odds to maybe dethrone ADT for what it's worth from his Alliance Wrestling League run?
So I know James from way back in the day.
Okay,
he's an athlete.
Yes.
He's a damn good athlete.
We were talking about him before you came on, and he's like really versatile. He's agile. I mean, he can go.
Yeah, he can go, and he's got the endurance to lay it to ADT, but ADT is an opportunist. He's going to do whatever it takes to remain undisputed, reigning heavyweight champion of Alliance Wrestling League. So his odds, I don't know. I can't say. I wish the best for him, but ADT is the champ, and he's the champ for a reason.
Oh, there's no question that he is the champ for a reason, and that's why we want people to follow the Alliance Wrestling League here on Alliance_Wrestling_League on Instagram, Alliance Wrestling League on YouTube, and ADT has responded. Stripped of my title, easy there, Seabiscuit. I haven't heard Seabiscuit used as a term, maybe since the Seabiscuit movie itself. It's all respect, but we know who the realist is in the Alliance backyard. Also,
yeah, it's ADT.
Well, yeah, I'm not arguing with that. I will get what I have scratched and clawed so much for. Also, CJ Black would like to say, so he'd make a good addition to the women's cheer team. That doesn't mean he's got what it takes to steal the belt from ADT. So it basically sounds like Mr. James has got his work cut out for him. I think it's what it all kind of sounds like here, Dylan.
Again, ADT is an opportunist. He's going to do whatever it takes, whether that's spiking Christopher James on his head, whether that's taking a kendo stick to his back, whether that's taking a steel chair to him, it doesn't matter. He's going to do exactly what it takes to retain that title. And Christopher James is going to have to work for that. He's going to have to put in the match of his life to get that title.
You know what? Right now, with the mood that ADT is in, I don't know. And as much as I love our friends over at Dark Cryptic Wrestling, and please give them a sub on YouTube at Dark Cryptic Wrestling, Christopher James being the new AWL champion, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, I right now, ADT, the mood he's in, the shape he's in, and if Dylan Andrews is telling you the frame of mind that ADT is in, he might be the most dangerous person in this sport right now. Yes, it is a sport, in my opinion. Everyone seems to be doubting Christopher James. Very poor decision. Now, obviously, Mr. Andrews, your brother, your other half is obviously speaking and has a difference of opinion.
No. Other half, no. It's more like a 90-10. He's just a pain in my ass.
I was surprised you didn't say 99-1.
No, he's a big pain in my ass.
And then he goes, who are you again? The guy, meaning CJ Black, that guy from ROEW that can't beat Jason Storm. Oof, well, I don't know, because obviously Mr. Black had said, the inferior brother commented again. So at least CJ kind of knows his audience. And look look at the size of this man. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we had on Mr. Judgment last night, 6'3", 260, but look at Dylan Andrews. This guy is all muscle. He's got a nose piercing for crying out loud. He's got thousands of tattoos. He's got sunglasses on. He's got a sweatshirt on. He's got a hat. He's got headphones on. He's got a fancy gaming chair. Are you going to argue with this man? I mean, I'm not listening. If I saw this guy in a darkened alley, I would give him every penny I've got and some and say, please don't eat me. I mean, this guy, look at the size of this man. And he's in the Alliance Wrestling League. I mean, who's going to argue with him?
And you can give me every penny by subscribing to Alliance Wrestling League at YouTube.
Done. And done. And on Instagram, the _original_ Dylan Andrews. Also, I've got here a ton of more comments. I was tired already before the match started. It sounds funny. I don't know which match, but it sounds funny. Dark Cryptic Wrestler, I'd say much respect to you, Christopher, sir. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, we respect Mr. James, but, I mean, look at an ADT right now. I mean, I want to go back to one more thing before I get to closing thoughts, Dylan, because you said something interesting. You've been around the game a long time, and you said right now, ADT would do anything to keep that championship. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've been in this game. You've also done things in the real world. That might make him the most dangerous man around if he would stoop to any level to keep that title. What's your thoughts on that?
Tilley, do you want to go?
Let's go with you, Dylan, because I think Hillbilly might be having an issue there.
Okay. As far as the most dangerous goes, he's most dangerous second to me, obviously.
Right,
I'm a natural born killer.
I mean, in terms of keeping the title. I mean, in terms of keeping
as far as keeping the title, and especially the most dangerous to Christopher James, since Christopher James is now in the sights of ADT. He's by far the most dangerous second to me.
Okay, I'm not going to argue that. For you, Hillbilly, is there a thought on that right now? In ADT being the most dangerous man and being a guy who's got the title, stoop to any level to keep that title. You're the general manager right now. You got to keep everybody in line. But doesn't that make ADT even more dangerous right now at the moment?
Well, he learned from the best. That's what I would do. I'd do anything to keep my title, as he knows. And he's done it. You saw the weapon shots in that match, man.
I did.
That's killer. Don't get me wrong.
Listen, not for nothing. ADT went through 2 stipulation matches to win and keep his title. I mean, so you got to give him that much. Think about this, to your correctly point that you made as general manager. In a short amount of time, look at how many matches ADT has been through. We have champions in companies with 3 initials that they defend their title 2, 3 months at a time, 4 months at a time. Can't get them to do interviews. They don't talk. They only exclusively wrestle in their company. Not ADT. ADT has defended his championship in heat that might only be rivaled in India, Arizona, where the wildfires are. I mean, think about what he's done to keep that championship. That's why he is where he is right now. That's why he is at the top of the mountain. I got some more comments here. Another excuse from CJ Black runs in the family. It's okay, AJ Morgan. I'll do my part to take ADT to the limit and then some. Always know, AJ. I'll keep in my mind I have your back. Christopher James also wants to say much respect to the guys in DKW. Get Dark Cryptic Wrestling on YouTube. Summer Bash is next year, July 5th to the 7th. More details, go to their YouTube page. Also, Big Cheese wants to know, what time is it where you guys are? Now, I think it's 8:03 p.m. where I am. Are you guys Eastern or Central time?
Central.
So it's 7 o'clock where you guys are. Okay. I was always wondering about that. Yeah, so it's you got.
I'm in North Carolina. It's Eastern.
Oh, it's Eastern. Okay, you're in North Carolina. Okay, so North Carolina, it would be same time as me. Alabama is Central time. I always wonder where the line goes from East to Central. I'm always kind of confused where it actually
halfway through Tennessee.
Okay, that makes sense. Halfway through Tennessee. Interesting. It's interesting. And Christopher wants to say 7:04 p.m. because it's in the UK. It's 5 hours. And last week, I did a show with somebody from Australia, and they're 14 hours ahead. So that was wild. Last week, I did a show. It was 5 o'clock Eastern time, and it was 7 a.m. his time. So that was Ace Reed from the Wired Up podcast. He's from Backyard Elite Wrestling. We did an interview, and he was like 14 hours ahead. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Also here, ADT's got a good one. The real question, Tilley, is, when do I get my hands on Christopher James? That's a great question. We get to closing thoughts here. And Hillbilly Tilley, you're the guy that can let us know. So when do we get to see ADT and Christopher James?
It's going to be AWL's first show. It's going to be called Retribution. It's going to be September 16th, and it's going to be in a backyard rules match.
Ooh. Now, obviously, we don't know yet all those details, but we can confirm September the 16th, Alliance Wrestling League on YouTube, so we can watch this match?
Yes, sir. That's what it's going to be. If y'all tune in to see the best show in backyard wrestling, Alliance Wrestling League.
Now, I have to ask you, Mr. Andrews, do you have any speculations on what those type of stipulations might be? I mean, you have any thoughts for the audience, what it could be? Because I kind of find that fascinating for a second.
Something with no DQ. I think Christopher James is going to he's going to need every chance that every opportunity in that match.
I think he might need the kitchen sink literally to keep that title.
Yeah, like Tilley said earlier, everything in the kitchen sink needs to be thrown at ADT just to get him on the ground, not even to pin him.
Yep.
So Christopher James is going to have a lot to work to do, and I think that stipulation is going to require no disqualification.
Oh, I think
just to get ADT on the ground.
Well, I would like to say, before I get to the big cheese in a second, I would like to say on Sportswire, I would hope that we can get these two gentlemen before the 16th of September and have a chat with them. I mean, if Mr. Tilley, if you thought that was okay, Mr. Andrews, if you thought that was okay, I would like to certainly see these two individuals here for a chat before that match. So maybe we could talk about that and get them face to face. I think a lot of people would like to see that happen. So that is certainly something I'd like to say. And for Mr. Logan, I want to bring this up because I actually have a guest that is actually going to require his attention, because Thursday here, which will be 3:15 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to give this as the first announcement exclusive for the Big Cheese. I'm going to have on the Big Cheese's, how can I say this, frenemy, Joel Cobra, live on Sportswire Radio. And Joel Cobra, another big man. He's now 1/3 of the modern day mafia. He is a big dude, almost like you, Dylan Andrews. Got 100 tattoos. He looks like the Undertaker almost. I mean, he would fit in also really nicely in AWL. His father was a wrestler. I mean, this guy Joel Cobra. I mean, this guy just oozes size, strength, and just throws people around like a rag doll. And he's coming live to Sportswire Radio. And I think that certainly Mr. Logan's going to be paying attention. I want to say hello also to my guest last night, another big man, by the way, 6'3", 260 pounds. He's the dominant breakout wrestling champion of the world, all the way in the state of now Maryland, Mr. Judgment, who says, "Good evening, mortals." And obviously, he's the prophet of purgatory. Think about it, the prophet of purgatory. He's God's true son. He's got a moveset that's impeccable. And for the Big Cheese Logan, he looks like Disciple in the UK. He's been the only 3-time ever DBW champion. And he's here. He's alive in the flesh. And he's with us here right now. I've also got here some more comments. So let me get to them here because I'll hang out even longer because people seem like they're coming all in. So I guess at this point, why not? I got nowhere to go. Big Cheese has a funny one. CBS, NFL, NBA's TBS, Eastern time, Western time zone. It all flies over my head. This is in the UK. It's not like that. Yeah, because they have Sky Sports. It's BBC Sports. It's some of those other networks out there, and they just kind of
also the UK is as far as surface area goes, it's smaller than the state of Alabama. So I mean, you can't have multiple time zones in the UK.
No,
it's not. No. It's not like the US. The US is
it's weird.
It's big.
I know. We have Eastern, Western. We have Pacific, Mountain, Central. And we have all these weird time zones, and I'm always asking people when I do my coverage in the UK, because we do a lot of wrestling coverage in the UK, it's so easy because everybody's on the one time zone. So it's like, all right, yeah, I know what time you are. Now, at this point, I've been doing it for 3 years over there, so it's like I'm so accustomed to the time zone. Whereas, like here in America, I have to ask, what state are you in again? And then what time zone are you in again? And people kind of chuckle at me, but that's why I'm kind of the dumb Yankee for the South fans. I'd love to hear that. I'm the dumb Yankee. You know, I'm a Northerner. I'm a Yankee.
You're above average.
I appreciate that. I would, if you didn't say I was, I'd still be okay with you. But hey, Christopher James, I beat you already, brother. No DQ. He's screwed. Respectfully, that's true. But I've trained, scratched, and clawed to get back to the title picture. I've never been more hungry, more athletic, or more stronger. You guys agree with that?
He's definitely been more athletic. This is the most athletic I've seen him, and the strongest I've seen him. But
You agree, Hillbilly?
I definitely agree. I think he's like the guy. He could potentially take the title off ADT, but ADT's on a monstrous run.
well, I will say, even though this is the strongest I've seen Christopher, it's not as strong as ADT.
Oh,
ADT,
listen, I mean,
ADT was a power lifter. He was
and
deadlifting
he's got the
500
amateur
pounds.
wrestling
Squat.
background.
Yes.
Amateur wrestling background. He literally goes in there, and it's like
Deadlifting 500 pounds, squatting 500
Listen,
pounds, benching 300 pounds. He is one of the strongest people I have ever seen, other than myself.
And I'm not going to argue that. Now, I listen. There's a lot of champions out there, and I'm going to say this very respectfully. They're champions, but you look at them in their companies, and then you see ADT. You're like, okay, not even going to go there. I'm not even going to argue that one. You know, he's certainly that. And Big Cheese says, Seabiscuit is a common term in Manchester when a woman is known as a good goer. I'm going to say nothing on that, but just kind of laugh because I'm just going to do that.
Yeah, that's something that we called women in Iraq. Sand biscuits, actually.
Oh, okay. You know, I had a buddy of mine who served. He was there right during the Iraq War. I should probably ask him that question, but I'm like afraid to ask him anything these days. But hey, that's here nor there. It's a horse movie. He also says you're welcome, and also they thank each other for the follow. Absolutely. Back at you. You must like good guys. Yeah, the Big Cheese does look like good. He does like good guys. Christopher, you act like you're the only one to evolve as a wrestler. Everyone has seen my work. I respect you. I love you like a brother, but you know what I can and will do to you. And he put that, by the way, the will in caps. I'm glad that we're not facing before then. I want you at 110%. No excuses come September 16th. By the way, it's not that far away. If you think about it, we're only 5 weeks away. Just 5 more weeks. That means we're going to have that's the last weekend of the summer. Think about it. The last weekend of the summer. Your plans are going to be watching Alliance Wrestling League, GT Ministries. Can't go wrong with both. I mean, that's what I'm going to be doing September the 16th. So I'm going to be booked. Don't even ask me what I'm doing September the 16th, but watching Alliance Wrestling League and GT Ministries in the Fountains Church. ADT has excellent fashion sense. He does have excellent fashion sense. I will definitely agree on that. I see no lies here, good guy. Okay, fair enough. You know what? We spoke about a lot here tonight, and I've certainly got a sense, and I've really had a lot of fun here with Dylan Andrews and Hillbilly Tilley. And I really hope that we can get Mr. James and certainly Mr. ADT for a chat before then. Hope to have you guys on as well before the 16th. But Hillbilly Tilley, I want to ask you this last question before I go over to Dylan Andrews. You've had a lot of moments in your career, done a lot in your career. You're back now here in Alliance Wrestling League. But is there one or two moments that stand out most in your career?
It's hard to say. I mean, I'd say the last match I ever had was against, someone that reminds me a lot of Dylan Andrews, Brandon Bonds. I think Dylan Andrews knows him fairly well. And, I was able to pull out the victory, but then, I had money in the bank at the time.
I was going to say, I wasn't going to bring up that last part.
And, I can't live it down. I would like to. I just don't feel complete. Maybe one day I'll return to the ring so I can vindicate myself, But also all my great matches that I had with Clay Pierce and ADT and Brandon Bonds and Bongio and the Masked Man. I mean, I had many great matches. HCW as a whole, I'm proud of, and I'm glad to be a part of this because I feel like we're going to make this something to be proud of, and we're going to go straight to the top, man. Thank you for even asking me about my show. I'm just glad I'm 10 years later, I'm still talked about a little bit.
And I'm happy to have you. And I'm happy that we could do that here. And before I move on to Mr. Andrews, Hillbilly Tilley's favorite moment when he thought he was going to face the good guy. Now he has to go through life unfulfilled. Wow. Well, I'll leave that there. Mr. Andrews.
I want to touch on that real quick. CJ,
yeah, absolutely.
CJ, his life is not unfulfilled. He is the manager of AWL, the greatest backyard wrestling league in the world. His life is not unfulfilled.
So you're not impressed then with Jason Storm's comments about Hillbilly Tilley or anything else toward the company?
I'm impressed with Jason Storm's work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not impressed with CJ. CJ, I'm not impressed.
Okay.
Not impressed.
All right.
But Storm, I am impressed with Storm. I like Storm.
I do too. I like Storm a lot.
I like Storm. I like that he travels. He is the champ. I give respect by all means, but he's not in AWL. And if he's not willing to travel to AWL, he's not a part of the greatest. He in my mind, he's not the greatest.
So he's not playing where the big boys play.
He's not playing where the big boys play. If he's willing to travel, he'll travel down.
So until then, he's a big fish in a small pond, you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Agree.
CJ Black would like to tell you, Mr. Andrews, that you have go-go gadget goggles.
Hey, these are my off-time glasses right here. You see my real glasses, my work glasses. When I rain terror on the yard.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask about those glasses. I'm going to certainly plead the fifth on that. But I did want to ask you, I mean, before we get to closing thoughts, I mean, what do you want to say to the Alliance Wrestling League audience and the fans and people on Sportswire Radio hearing you for the first time? I know we'll have you back before the next show, but I mean, what do you want to say to people out here tonight?
Stay out of my way. Simple.
I agree.
Simple. Stay out of my way.
I like you. I like you. There's something.
I appreciate it.
You got charisma. I tell you what. I think I want you on Sportswire more often. I think you could take over my shoes. I mean, I like you. You got some charisma. You got some fire. I tell you that much. You got something.
I'm no stranger to a mic. I'm no stranger to an audience.
I could see.
I've gone to court. So I've seen an audience. I had a jury of my peers.
So I could appreciate the court thing. I could actually appreciate that because I did take law and criminal justice for 2 years, and I have
I was a criminal in the justice system. So
well, I actually am in a court. If I talk about my political career, I was actually taken to court by a state senator, but I'm not going to get into that here. That's here nor there. Nothing was found wrong, but it was just one of those instances, and I'm sure I'm still. In an election law case, because one of my technical jobs is I'm an expert in election law in New York, but that's a different show for a different time. So we'll leave that here at there. But
my professional job is killing people. So.
Oh well, your job is certainly much more vicious, much more ruthless.
Definitely, there's a lot more blood.
And that's why you're in the Alliance Wrestling League, and that's why I'm not going to argue with anything you say here. And that's why we're happy to have you tonight. And like I said, Tom said you've done everything in life except show up. No, well, actually, I challenged you to come to New York, and you didn't come here. So, I mean, two birds don't make a right, and you actually didn't come here. So, and I challenged you and offered a portion of proceeds to cover your expenses. So, I mean, if you want to go down that road, we can go down that road, but we're here about the Alliance Wrestling and all the great things that it has to offer. And I want people to follow the Alliance Wrestling League on Instagram at Alliance_Wrestling_League, Alliance Wrestling League on YouTube. And I want to get to closing thoughts here because obviously you gentlemen have been a tremendous honor to have on here. I'm really excited about the future of the AWL. It's not about me. It's not about anybody else. It's about this great company. It has a huge show coming up here September the 16th called Retribution, the company's first one. And Hillbilly, Tilley, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? The floor is yours, my friend. Fire away.
Well, get on a train while you can. AWL is going straight to the top. Like I can't stop saying. ADT has a men amongst boys. So is Dylan Andrews. Tune in September 16th to Retribution. We're going to see a great card. I'm sure we might see Dylan Andrews and his brother on that same card too.
Ooh. I would like to see that. I'd like people to follow Hillbilly Tilley on Instagram. Hillbilly Tilley, BYW. Join the movement. Join the Alliance. Follow him. You won't regret it. Mr. Andrews, you were certainly an original on Sportswire Radio. You were definitely a one-of-a-kind, a guy that I like already. You got natural charisma. You're definitely born for this. That's why I want to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts. I hope this is the first of many appearances here on Sportswire Radio. So I turn it over to you. Anything you want to say out there? Anything you want to plug? The floor is yours. Mr. Andrews, be my guest.
First and foremost, when you invite me, I will come. I got nothing else to do. I got nothing else going on. I've beaten the court system. I've gotten out of prison. So
I know the court system.
I
established it. I know the court system. That's pretty big to beat the court system because I'm in New York. I happen to know how the courts work. I'm very impressed already.
So I am ready to face AJ whenever he gets healthy. I know he's facing an injury right now because of what I've done to him. I haven't finished the job, and I want to finish the job. That is my only goal with this yard.
Okay.
Hold on. There's a comment. It popped up. Where'd it go?
Yeah, I just showed it up just to
okay.
show Mr. Morgan and his kind of just final moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. He can't win the title. He hasn't been able to win the title. He's had what, two title matches, two.
I lost count.
Yeah, I mean, he's had way too many chances. He's riding off my coattails, riding off my family name, and he can't close the damn deal. That's why my sights are aimed for his ass.
Well, you know what? I certainly, if I'm AJ Morgan, I still say what I said a little while ago. If you have the chance and you have the opportunity not to show up and don't bother, that would be what I would consider. That's all I would say, Mr. Morgan. Maybe you'll have your day, your moment. You still have time to reconsider or consider anything you want. It's your call. But if it's
brother to brother, this is the big brother talking to the little brother. Here's my recommendation. Run.
And I have an endorsement for you, Mr. Andrews. Mr. Judgment himself says he is filth. So meaning, I guess he's saying about Mr. Morgan, he's filth, meaning that he's just doesn't think much of him.
He is.
And if Mr. Judgment says that, because he's 6'3", 260, and he's dominated his company, and he's also done it all like you, pro, backyard, underground, and he's a world champion in multiple companies, I think I'm going to agree with Mr. Judgment. Follow him, by the way, on Instagram, Gods_true_son. Also follow him on YouTube, Dominating Breakout Wrestling. They have over 3,000 plus subscribers. They're also on Facebook as well, Dominant Backyard Wrestling. So make sure you follow Mr. Judgment, all the great things DBW is going to have, because Tuesday night I'll be back with more DBW coverage with Brandon Castelli. So obviously Brandon will have a lot to say coming up here with the show. And I want to thank Mr. Judgment for coming in. Also, please again follow him on Instagram, Gods_true_son. Also, Morgan has had one too many, 3. I think we all said 3, so that makes sense. I'm getting.
I was somewhere between 2 and 3.
I think 2 of us said 3, so we'll agree. We'll agree to agree. I'm getting a restraining order on Dylan Andrews. I just don't trust him and not thanking him. Where's my thanks for taking a normal job so you can travel overseas?
So, first and foremost, CJ, I'm not going up to Michigan. I'm with Tilley. I don't go above the Mason-Dixon. I think it's trash in Michigan. I've heard too many bad things about Michigan. I don't like their football team. Either one of them. I don't like both of them. They suck. So not going to Michigan. So you don't have to worry about the restraining order. You can keep out of the legal system. Don't worry about that. Don't trust me. That's fine. It is what it is. Don't thank me for my service. I don't give a shit either way. I did what I had to do to protect your ass so you could have a normal job and live the life that you live.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to argue anything that you said, sir, and I'm not going to argue anything about Michigan, nor am I going to argue anything about Alabama. But if it happens between ROBW and AWL, obviously we hope to know about it. Maybe the future will certainly bring us some news on that. But listen, we'll have to see. But in the meantime, gentlemen, I am very honored to have you on here. And I am very excited about the future of the Alliance Wrestling League. That's what I know. I am very excited about this company. That's what I'm here for. And I think a lot of people tonight on Sportswire Radio really got fired up about the future here of this company, which I cannot stress enough. Again, please follow on Instagram at Alliance_Wrestling_League. Also, Alliance Wrestling League on YouTube. I can't wait. I hope to see you guys here very soon before the 16th of September. Certainly Mr. Andrews and Mr. ADT. We hope to extend the invite to them as well. And hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Hope you enjoy the barbecues, the pools, the summer, whatever else is on your agendas. And let's do this again real soon, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
ladies and gentlemen, we were joined here from the Alliance Wrestling League, our general manager, 5-time champion of the world, Mr. Hillbilly Tilley, and also here the legendary, the original Dylan Andrews, who's made his triumphant return to the ring here. He's also a huge part of things at Alliance Wrestling League after what he did at the main event of the prior show prior to this one, after what he had done. Yes, with the Miller Lite and the tattoos, definitely look at him. He's drinking to a cold one here, and who's going to argue with him? nobody, that's for sure. And certainly his brother AJ Morgan's got a few options left, and his option might be to not have this match, but we'll have to find out here. For more information, you can certainly go over to the Alliance Wrestling League's YouTube, Instagram pages. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you're on sportnarium.com/play and go back to your regularly scheduled programming here, I'll be back here Monday night with Vito Fratelli, Pro Wrestling Star. Tuesday, then DBW's Brandon Castelli. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in here on the number one global radio station, Sportswire Radio. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.